you want to transform your life, you first need to transform your state. And that's exactly what I'm going to show you guys here today, is how to change your state so you can transform your life. Welcome back to another class here, guys. You want to buckle up for this one because I don't plan on editing it too much, and I plan on spending a lot of time on this whiteboard breaking down step by step here on how you can properly change your state, why it's important, the reasoning behind it, so you have a better understanding on how to truly transform your life, so you can empower yourself, feel better, end suffering, and get to the next phase of life that you want to experience. So, without further ado, let's dive right in here. So, when it comes to changing your state, changing your life, how I'm going to break down this class here today for you guys is first of all, I'm going to go over what do I mean by changing your state, how it works, why is it so important. Then number two is I'm going to go over what we typically do when we try to transform our lives and how to do it in a much, much easier fashion. Then we're going to dive into more of the specifics here on the rules, the laws that play out on how this works, what resistance is for, how to use resistance to move forward in your life, etc. We're really going to break it down today. So let's dive in. So the first thing I want to look at here is state. When I say you want to change your state, what I mean by that is who you're being as a whole. And being as a whole, what I mean by that is your state of being is, we could call it your frequency. What is your state of being? Your state of being is your most dominant frequency. So if you took up all the emotions that you had on a daily basis, so maybe it's sad, happy, fear, joy. If you took up all of these on your day-to-day life and you had to connect them into one, that would be your state. Okay, your state of being. Now, the idea I'm going to share with you guys here today is that if you want to transform your life, you start with your state of being first, and then everything else follows through. So that's the first thing to understand, though, is when I say state, right, your state of being, change your state, what I mean is the overall most dominant emotion that you're feeling overall. Okay, so you go through your day, you wake up in the morning, maybe you have high stress and anxiety. Maybe you're on the drive to work, maybe you're kind of neutral feeling. Then when you get to work and you're working, maybe you love your job, so you're super passionate, you're happy, you're in flow. Very happy feeling, right? And then you go home and you do your other things. And if you took all that up and you rounded it in and you had to give a name for your state of being. Now, mind you, state of being, so you can also use this graph here to help you understand on what your state is. So if you look at the name of the level, for example, on the side here, there's all these different states. And this too can help you get a better understanding of where you might be at your state of being. So are you stuck in fear right now in your life? Desire, anger, courage. Where is your focus at most of the time? Okay? Right? Because where your focus goes, your energy goes. So where is your focus at more of the time? Is it on anger? You're angry about something or a situation. Is it on desire? You're constantly daydreaming, wanting a change. You see what you don't want. You're so focused on what you do want. What is your current state? Now let's dive deeper into why it's so important. So, if you wanted to change your life, right? If we want change, what does change require? Well, we need new results, right? In order to have change, we need new results. New results give us change. And what gives new results is new actions. And what holds new results is consistent actions over time. Now, I'm going to break down with you here on the logic versus flow way of being when it comes to getting new actions in your life to create that kind of change that you want. So let's look at it. We're going to break this down to two ways. What most of us do versus the other way. Intuition/flow. Okay, so we'll call this state We'll focus on this as state as number one, and we'll focus this on logic as in brain is number one. So breaking this down here, let's say this person specifically, they want to change their financial outcome. Okay, so both of these people, they want money in their lives. So the logical brain, when they see that they want more money in their lives, what do they typically do? They'll go out and they'll study, right? So they'll study, they'll gather information. And then after you do that, usually they'll come up with some sort of plan. And they'll take this plan and they'll take action from it, hoping that they're going to get new results over time. Now, what the intuitive or the flow self would do is they focus on state. So they get themselves in the proper state of being. Okay, so they focus on the result. What does that feel like? Okay, so they get into the state of being where they feel plus think as the person, as the results that they want. And then after they get into this state here, after they're in what we would call alignment, then they act. But instead of acting off of what they should do, the plan, they act based off alignment, the state. And then they get the results. So that is the difference, is the logical side will study, will gather all the information, and it makes a logical decision. So it'll create a logical plan of what makes sense, right, to us, to our logical side. And then we'll take action based off that, and then hoping to get the results that we want. The intuition side, focus on state first. Once state is on track in an alignment with the person that we want to be, right? So for example, if I want $1,000,000, I'm going to visualize, what do I look like, feel like, think like, act like, as if I already had $1,000,000 in my bank account right now. And then once I'm fully in that state where I feel as if I already had $1,000,000 in my bank account, then I'm going to trust and take aligned action after that state. So aligned action would be just the next pull, the next aligned push, the next aligned action that I can take. Letting go of the how or when, right? Because I'm not tapping into the logic. I'm just letting go of the how or when, and we're just trusting in that natural flow. Okay. So those are the differences, logic versus intuition and flow. Now, let's look at it here a little bit deeper. So now let's go back to results. All right. So in order to create change in our lives, we need new results. We need new results over time. So looking at this, we have the logical brain and we have the intuitive side, right? And we're both trying to go there. Well, let's really dive into what actually creates new results for our lives. Let's do the whole entire formula just by knowing how the brain functions, how we are as people, right? So new actions create new results. We know that. But we also need to put in here sustained. Because anybody who knows anybody who's ever tried to lose weight, they definitely know somebody who has lost weight and gained it all back again, right? Got right back, stuck to the exact place they didn't want to be. So in order to get real, actual, consistent change in our lives, we need sustained actions. Anybody can do great for a week. Anybody can do great for a month. Who can show up consistently for a year, 2 years, 3 years? That's when you know you're a different person. So you need new sustained actions over time to get new results. Now, the question though is, what produces consistent actions over time? Short actions over time can come from a hunch, a thought, right? Okay, I should do this. It can come from that. But sustained actions, okay? Your behaviors, your consistent habits, how you consistently show up and act over time. It comes from identity. Who you are shapes how you act consistently over time, right? Your identity is your identity, what it does is it's your sense of self, right? This is how I identify as. It is my sense of self. It is the structure, it is the glue that holds me down so I have this sense of myself. And then I act based off that. If I identify as a Christian, I'm going to go to church. I'm going to read the Bible. I'm going to take action based off my identity. So we can all agree that identity creates sustained actions over time. Okay. Now, what creates identity, though? What creates your identity, what neuroscience shows, is thoughts and emotions. Thoughts and emotions going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So you hold a thought and emotion over time, you keep doing it over and over and over again, you will rewire your identity. And where do these emotions come from? Because it's not like just randomly. It's very rare that we just experience a random emotion, right? Or, for example, our thoughts. Where do our thoughts come from? Well, a lot of us think that we are our thoughts, right? Oh, you're stupid. Oh, I'm actually stupid, right? No, you're not your thoughts. You don't know what the next thought's going to be. So, where these emotions, these thoughts come from, it's not sporadic. Okay, they come from the hidden pieces. And these are our beliefs or fears. So, your beliefs slash fears. So, we'll say your core belief system. Okay, and we'll keep fear out of this for now. Your core belief system is what creates your thoughts and emotions. So somebody who has the identity of a confident person, they probably believe that they're good enough, they're capable, they can handle hard things, they can do hard things. They probably have those belief systems that support them that eventually create that identity. But let's say somebody has an identity of like, I'm not good enough, I'm not good looking, I have low confidence, I'm a low confident person, I'm an introvert. Usually they're going to have thoughts of like, oh gosh, like what do other people think about me? I don't feel good about myself. I don't feel good in my clothing. They're going to have all these thoughts and feelings, right? And that kind of makes up their identity and affects them on a daily basis. But the beliefs they probably hold is you're not worthy. You are not good enough. Core beliefs like so that produce those thoughts and emotions. And then they get wrapped into it and start to believe it's true. And over time, as we can see now, identity will influence sustained actions over time, which gives us the results that we want in our lives. So that's the formula on how to get new results. By understanding how the brain works and how we function, that's the formula there. So now if we tie back into the logical and the intuitive sides, right, on how we go and make changes in our lives, well, when we want new results, let's say the logic, what they do is they use the logic on what they should do and they follow the plan. So they act on plan. And then over time, they're hoping they get different results. But here's what happens as they try to act on that plan. Let's say, for example, it's weight loss, right? So they have this diet plan and they're trying to follow this diet plan. But let's say they have this identity of I'm somebody who can't handle stress. They have a core belief system of I can't handle stress, right? And that kind of influences their identity. I'm somebody who cannot handle stress. I'm an emotional eater because I cannot handle stress. So they're trying to follow this plan. They're trying to follow the diet, right? But then let's say the stress comes up in their lives, right? Or an event comes up in their lives, that is going to trigger resistance. Resistance is something that's not in alignment with where you want to go. So they have this stressor, this event comes up, and they're trying to follow this diet plan. But then their core belief is I cannot handle stress. It influences them in all levels. So no matter what, they're trying to act differently. But over time, as the stress pops up, as they're trying to change the results in their lives, this core belief system is going to eventually take over. The brain does not like to be wrong. It wants consistency. It's why so many of us function in patterns, right? Like the law of rhythm. So they have this limiting belief of stress. Okay. And that is keeping, or I can't handle stress. And that's tied into their identity. I'm an emotional eater. So as they're trying to follow this logical plan outside themselves, they're trying to follow this diet over time, over time, over time, but they still have this emotional eating pattern that's still going on. So let's say all week long they follow the plan, they do great, but then the weekend they emotionally eat, or every time a stressful event happens after work, they end up self-sabotaging at nighttime. So it's almost like they go two steps ahead and then two steps backwards. But they're trying to follow this plan because it logically makes sense. Other people are doing it. So why isn't it working for them? So they keep trying to follow the plan, keep trying to follow the plan. But then eventually, this stress and this emotional eating just bogs them down. And they just start feeling terrible. They're feeling terrible because they're stressed out themselves now. They're upset because they're not being able to get the changes that they want. And then eventually they say, you know what? The plan doesn't work. I quit. And they go back to their old ways of being. And what's the results then? They don't make any lasting changes. They might have lost a few pounds, but they don't make any lasting changes long term. So that's the first step. Okay, but let's say then intuition. Okay, so the intuitive, what they do is they focus on their state. Okay, so they get into the right state and then they take action. And let's say the actions they're taking is they're eating good. So their eating's good. They went to the gym that day and they're focused on the state. So they got themselves in the state of like, gosh, if I had $1 million in my bank account, or we'll say it's the weight loss this time. If I had this, if I was down this 30 pounds, I'd feel so confident. So they focus on feeling confident now. They get in that state and then they take action off that. Gosh, I want to go for a walk. Okay, checked it off. I want to eat this high protein meal after this walk because I feel so good. I'm feeling so confident. I want more and more of it. Awesome. And then what happens though, as they're trying to stay on this, resistance still pops up. Okay, resistance still pops up just like them above. But this time with the resistance, okay, this time let's say they still have the limiting belief of stress and the stress eating. So let's say stress pops up. Before they react to it, because that's what the person was doing up here, right? Is this would happen and they react and they would eat. Before they react to it, they notice that this is knocking them out of their state of being, the stress. So let's say the resistance was a trigger. I had a hard day at work. Now I'm feeling stress. Okay. But my number one focus is my state of being. So I notice now that this resistance popped up. Instead of me reacting to the resistance and acting upon that way, I'm going to focus on getting myself back into the state of being. So there's a few ways that I can do this. Okay. This is the alchemy side of things, right? You're turning one form of energy into another. Okay. So you're turning stress, right? You want to take stress. So I'm feeling stress into flow, into allowance, right? I'm taking fear into courage. You're changing one thing into another. So they have the stress pops up and they don't want to react that way because that's going to put them back in that old pattern of their old selves. So what they can do here, here's an example of what I do with my clients on a high level, is you can dissect it. Okay? You can dissect it. Where is this emotion coming from? Because we now know that emotions, right, and thoughts are typically coming from the core belief system. So the stress is a trigger. I want to act on it by emotionally eating. But let me dissect this. What would I have to believe to be true about myself in order to be feeling stressed out right now after work? Oh, I must believe that I can't handle stress. Okay. Was that universally true? No. I can handle stress, right? Yeah, I can definitely handle stress. How does that feel? It feels a lot more freeing. I feel a lot more confident and capable. Okay, well, is there any reason now then for me to still act out in that way and stress eat? But because I now know that I can handle stress. So is there still any reason why I would still decide to stress eat? Because remember, the brain's only going to do what it believes is best for it. Once it realizes that it no longer needs to stress eat because it can handle stress or whatever it may be, the limiting belief that caused that reaction in the first place, there'll be no reason to continue that acting that pattern unless there's another hidden belief or fear behind it. So let's say there is. Let's say the fear is of change. Well, yeah, I still am. I still have this feeling of the stress. And now it's coming, like, I know I can handle stress, but I have a hard time following through with it because I'm scared. Like, what if I don't stress eat anymore and I actually do lose this weight? Like, how am I going to sustain it? Oh, okay. So we're talking about the fear of failure. What would you have to believe to be true about yourself to be scared of failing? That I'm not good enough. Boom. That's the core limiting belief. That's the core limiting belief that's causing them to get out of this state of being here. Oops. This out of the state of being here. So we know though our main focus is staying in that state of being, right? So this limiting belief has to go because it's not helping me stay in my state of being. So we let it go. Well, is it universally true that I'm not good enough? Does everyone in the world agree upon that? Was I born this way? No. Oh my gosh, that's so freeing. So what's actually true? What's actually true is I am good enough. I am who I am, and that is good enough. That's a lot more empowering. How does that make you feel? I feel so much more confident. Okay, I'm back in the state of being now. So now that I'm back in the state of being, I get back into the right actions. And now that means I'm no longer stress eating because that isn't the aligned action. That's not the next aligned action from my state of being. So then what happens over time? Well, I'm now able to take more consistent actions. I'm working through the resistance. Now I'm going to start getting new results in my life. And that's how things are going to start changing. So I don't know if you caught a few pieces there, but I'm going to break it a lot deeper down as I go. But that is the clear difference, okay? Is logical, when you take action from your logical state, right, is you gather the information, you have a certain already stuck belief system, fears, programs into your mind, and that creates your identity, your sense of self, your ego. And this part of you tries to control the future or tries to control the past. It wants things to be consistent and predictable. Now, change requires change. Change requires things to not be so predictable. Ego hates that. Identity hates that. It wants to control the when or the how. It wants to define situations the way it can to align in the way it fits itself. So when that process is broken, we experience resistance. Now, a lot of the time, though, when people experience resistance, they blame it on themselves. They go inwards and say, something is wrong with me. I'm not changing like everybody else is. We don't learn the proper lessons. So then we go backwards. All right, so that's kind of how the logical brain works. It creates these plans and it will act from this state of being. So when you come from lack, let's say you want money, but you're coming from a place of lack. I need more. I don't have enough, right? And you go from lack and you follow those plans and you take action from that. Even if you do change your results, you're coming from a place of lack. That's all you're focused on. You're going to keep finding more and more and more lack. You can make all the money in the world, but you're still going to feel that lack because you're still focused on the lack. So even if somehow you do end up making that money, you're still going to feel that way and it's not going to change your situation. It's not going to make you feel any better or any different. But when we can change that state, right? So we don't come from lack and we can change it where we come from abundance and we change it so that's the state we're in. Now we're going to have new thoughts plus emotions, which are going to make new inspired actions, which will be different actions over time, which will be in alignment with what we want, right? Which is in alignment with the abundance that we want. So over time, we will get new results. But the problem then, though, is that you have to put the ego and the identity aside because they're going to want to grip on the control and say, hey, we're stepping into the unknown here. We don't know what it's like to take aligned action from abundance because we've always been from a state of lack. And that's been the consistent story for us. So now you want to change it? No, no, no. That's scary. And that's where like a lot of fear and whatnot will pop up and it stops people in their tracks. But if you can trust into your intuitive side, your flow side, and make state of being the number one, right? You focus on the state. Okay, money brings me freedom. Okay, so I'm gonna put myself in a freedom-based state. And as soon as I put myself in a freedom-based state, then I'm gonna take action from there. Okay, so my inspired action is from that freedom-based state. Now I'm taking different actions. Awesome. So I'm going to start getting new results. But then resistance pops up because let's say my external life will give me a reflection of something I don't prefer, right? So let's say I'll have a bill that pops up. Well, I could go back into my old state of lack and take action there, or I can first get into my proper state. I can get into the freedom state. Okay. Well, first, before I act upon this, let me get into the state. Okay, freedom. What would that feel like? What is that? What do I think like in this state? Okay, once I'm in that state of being, then I can act off of that. Now I might have different thoughts. Well, I feel like I'm so free. I feel like such an abundance. What's the next freedom kind of act? Oh, I know this person might be able to help me out. Because now abundance isn't just money, abundance of thoughts, abundance of resources, friendships, all these things that can help you out. So now you're thinking in different ways. You're expanding your perspective, you're expanding your consciousness. Once you're expanding yourself, you can think in different ways to handle the situation from an aligned state of being. So then the result of that is going to get more and more freedom, more and more abundance. But what oftentimes we do is we come from that animal logic state, right? Lack. Okay, I want to change my state. I'm following this plan. I'm taking these new actions. Oh, I had this bill pop up. Oh my gosh, why did this knock me off my tracks? Life is against me. I never have enough. I can't pay this bill. Now I can't keep going. I'm stuck. Right? It literally closes the doors. It closes the situation. It closes our perspective. It doesn't allow us to expand because we're stuck in that one story. That belief system is running our lives over and over again. We're getting the same results over and over and over again. But when you trust and you focus on your state and allow intuition and flow to take over, you're more fluid. You're more so in flow. You're going to transform. You're like the river then. You're not trying to swim in up the river. You're flowing with the river and allowing things to unfold the way they allow or the way they're supposed to. So let's go back up now. So let's talk about the way this works now in manifestation terms. Okay, so let's say your frequency is what you frequently see. Okay, and you're attracting. Remember, you don't attract what you want, you attract what you are. All right, so let's say your frequency is what you want to focus on. So this is the state. Okay, the state is your frequency. And again, we'll just use money again as the thing that people want. So, and again, this can be money, this can be love, this can be health and happiness. It can be all these things. So, you're trying to attract all these things in your life, right? Again, what most people do is when they try to attract money, when they try to attract love, when they try to attract happiness into their lives, they start based off the logic. But again, your logical brain is created through your core beliefs on what you believe about yourself, the world, right? All these limitations are then pushed into here, and this is where you're thinking and feeling from, and that's allowing you to take action. But the problem is, though, is that if you're coming from a place of lack, and then you take new actions from lack, you're going to have a narrow focus on more lack. So this, yeah, you might take what might look like the smartest plan of action. But if your state of being is stuck in the old starting range, you're going to keep finding more and more of that, the law of attraction. Right? You attract what it is that you are. Right? On the frequency, if I'm watching channel 99, all the other channels are playing. But I'm stuck on channel 99 because that's the frequency I'm on. So if I'm stuck on lack, all these other channels, abundance, and all these other things could be happening around me, but I can't tap in, tune into it. I can't experience it because my state, my energy, my focus is lack right now. And that's all I'm finding. So I take action, I try to change my life, but I'm so focused on lack that it's tearing me apart. It's making me feel so overwhelmed. It's making me feel so not enough. It's making me feel I can't even find new paths to get unstuck and change my life because I'm literally blinding myself from it. The brain will literally filter out what does not serve it. So I'm trying to get this stuff. And here's the thing is that I might even go out and find money in my life. But if I have a belief system that I am lack and I don't have enough, right? Well, when I get all this abundance in my life, I'm going to self-sabotage. I'm going to say, this does not match my state of being. This does not match my nervous system, right? My nervous system can't handle this. My frequency cannot handle this. So then I will self-sabotage. And this is what we call the imposter syndrome. And I know this so well because I did this myself. In my younger 20s, like ever since I've been making good amount of money from my business, and I was making a great amount of money at this one time, but I couldn't even experience it or feel it. I felt so poor, but I felt like I was just never enough. So I couldn't even experience and enjoy it at the time. Even though all this amazing financial abundance was coming in, I couldn't even enjoy it. And what I had to recognize is because I was coming from a place of it's never enough. And I had belief systems around this that money is stressful to make. So every time I would make a lot of money, I would self-sabotage and put myself in a stressful situation. I would find a way to self-sabotage and get rid of the money where I'm back into a place of chasing more money again. And it was this constant cycle over and over and over again. And it did not stop until I rewired the limiting beliefs that money is not actually hard to make. That's a limiting belief. Right? Is that universally true? No. It's not actually universally true. So I had to change these beliefs and I had to break the pattern. I had to stop reacting the same way. You know you've truly changed in life when your external world hasn't yet changed, but you react differently to it. That's when you know you changed because now you're taking new actions. You're seeing it from a different perspective, therefore you're going to get new results. So, when you change your frequency, right? When you change your frequency, then all you need to focus on is staying in that state. So every time resistance pops up, and resistance isn't, now you can look at it as an opportunity because resistance is old self, right? Old self, we'll call it, trying to grip on to keep you stuck. So you have the opportunity now to allow this resistance to keep you stuck in the same old state of being, or you can find the lesson. So there's either a pattern, there's a lesson, or there's a belief that's coming up that's causing you to feel this way, that's causing you to experience this resistance, to see the situation in the lens which you see it. And once you're able to learn that, okay, then you're going to allow yourself to get back in that state, right? Back into the state of being so you can keep going. And that's exactly how you do it. But again, a lot of us, we can't trust in that. So when the resistance pops up in our lives, we can't trust that it's a part of the process. We believe that the world is against us. And we see it in that lens, and we allow it to affect us in that way. So going back up here again to the notes. Okay, so we talked about the state is number one, most important. Logic versus flow and what we usually do. The universal law is the law of attraction, right? As above, so below, inner equals outer, which we'll talk about soon, and resistance. So the key here, the key lesson here is that inner equals outer. Your inner state will eventually equal your outer state. You ever hear the sayings, the rich get richer, the poor get poorer? What do the rich focus on? Making more money. It's so simple, and that's why we don't understand it as well. Because I think the animal brain is often looking for a way to complicate things. You want more money in your life, right? You focus on abundance. You focus on abundance, you feel abundant, you focus on riches, you study it, you absorb it, you talk to people like it, you surround yourself around it, you act like it, you become it. You can do that. You want to stay broke, right? You want to stay overweight, we'll say. Then you focus on where you're at. You focus on all the things that you don't like about yourself. You don't accept yourself. You don't give yourself self-love and respect. You don't focus on, healthier eating and all the things that you can do to change. You don't pay attention to all these other things out there. You keep your focus on where you're at and all the reasons why you don't like it, and you just keep your focus there, and I promise you, you will stay stuck. That's it. And then every time when you are trying to change, if you want to stay stuck, this is the key. Every time that you do try to change, right? If you want to stay stuck, make sure you stay in that state of being because that will allow you to think and feel the same ways, which over time will take over your actions so you keep getting the same results. So when you're trying to change your life and resistance pops up, don't look at it as a lesson. Don't look at it as a reflection of, oh, there's just an anchor I got to pull out to change my personal frequency. Look at it as there's something wrong with me or I'm doing something wrong and I got to stop. This is the wall and I got to quit. And if you do that, you'll automatically fail every time. I promise you. So if you want to succeed, you got to do the opposite. And the opposite is number one. State is number one. State is how you want to be now. Because remember, what the things that you imagine of what it is that you want it for the feeling you think it's going to give you. So feel that way now, stay in that state now, and trust in how creation works, that you will attract it by focusing on that state. So put the state. Okay, so you need to have your desire. You need to know what you want, right? And what it feels like, and then get into that state. And the number two is aligned action. Aligned action from that state. Number three is work through resistance. Okay. And then the resistance is old anchors. So think of it like this. This is the goal. I'm trying to expand my life. This is me now. I'm growing. Awesome. So I'm expanding. And then I constrict. Constriction, this part is needed in order for us to keep growing. But what happens to a lot of people is in this constriction, we tend to stay down. And then we go up and then we go down. We go up, we go down, and we just stay stuck the same. But what we want to do is this is resistance, which just means that there's something keeping us stuck in the same state, right? So there is a certain perspective that we have on a situation or the meaning that we're giving to a certain situation or how we're defining the situation based off of whatever beliefs that we have. So we need to upgrade our beliefs because our current beliefs do not serve us in where we want to go. So it's our beliefs, a lesson, or pattern. And then once we learn that, right? Once we learn the lesson, well, there's no reason to keep repeating it. So we can go up. Once we change our limiting beliefs that are holding us down, once we cut those out, there's nothing holding us down, so we can go up. Once we find the pattern that we keep repeating over and over again, there'll be no reason to keep repeating the pattern, so we can go up. And that's how you continuously level up your life and keep expanding. And as you do that, your life is only going to get tenfold better. Only going to get so much better. So number three, work through the resistance and the old anchors. And then number four, return back to state. Number five, let go of how, when, and again, stay in state. You need to be delusional. You need to literally act, be, feel as if it's literally done now. And what I mean by that, the tricky thing to know about that is oftentimes, let's say you're trying to attract a loving relationship to your life. You're trying to attract abundance to your life. You're usually going to be so excited. You're going to be looking for it in your external world. But when you look for it in your external world, what do you show? You show that you don't already have it. So that's why, again, state comes first. Don't worry about the how or the when. That's the logical ego. That's the identity old self trying to take control. You need to get into your flow self, your intuitive self. Trust that I just got to focus on my state of being, change my personal frequency. I'll take the next aligned action based off that. That next aligned action will lead me to the next place. As soon as I notice that resistance pops up in my life, something that I do not prefer, I observe it, but I do not react to it. So I observe it for what it is. And then I find the lesson, the pattern, the belief in it. I unplug it, I let it go, and then I keep expanding. I do not react. I do not let it personally affect me. I just focus on my state. I observe. I know what I don't prefer. I know what I do prefer. And I keep taking aligned action to where I want to go. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the training for today. So I hope that this did serve you in one way or another and helped you. And if you did, I'd love for you to leave a comment, a question, a like, a subscribe. And if you need anything else, I'm always one message away on Instagram at Caden Hayward. But I hope you guys enjoy this training for today. I'll see you on the next one.